welcome back. It's me, Bo, here on the channel with another film review. Thanks so much for checking out this video. In today's review, I'm going to be taking a look at the controversial 1976 drama Salon Kitty. This is one of the more notorious titles in the Nazi exploitation genre, and upon its release, it was banned in several countries. Just before we get into the review, guys, if you haven't already, please do consider subscribing to the channel. All the support is greatly appreciated. So, Salon Kitty from 1976 was directed by the Italian filmmaker Tinto Brass and was based on the novel by Peter Norden. Brass not only adapted the film's screenplay, but also edited the film, something that he did on many of his projects. Now, this movie first came to my attention when I was doing some research online into Italian cinema. I saw various posters of Salon Kitty, some of which were quite gruesome, and it caught my eye, so I decided to check it out. Having already seen SS Experiment Camp and Gestapo's Last Orgy, I knew what I was getting myself into. I knew that there was going to be a lot of blood and guts, so I was mentally prepared for it. Narrative-wise, the movie followed the Nazi commander Helmut Wallenberg, who tasked his men to recruit dozens of women across Germany to go undercover as sex workers. The plan was to basically gain information, sensitive information, from the various men that used these prostitutes, some of which included foreign dignitaries. Any noteworthy information would then be passed on to the higher-ups in command. Wallenberg, who was played by actor Helmut Berger, told his officers to search far and wide for the very best German women that could handle such a mission. It wasn't going to be easy. It was a tough operation to go undercover and basically have sex with various men, and only the strong-willed and strong-minded would survive. Anyways, the various women were eventually collected, and so began Operation Salon Kitty. At first, the women were rounded up and given over to some Nazi soldiers as a way to basically test their fortitude. With a job like this, there was no room for shyness or modesty, as the chosen few would basically end up performing monkeys, collecting sensitive information over time. This whole random sex orgy between the Nazi soldiers and the women, it was basically this thinning out process to see, how well these women would cope. But I must say, it was a pretty wild scene, seeing all these naked bodies rolling around. With all of the lingering close-ups, I definitely got the impression that the director was trying to, in some way, titillate the audience. Wallenberg would go on to inform the madam of Salon Kitty that the party needed her building and she would basically need to shut down. Kitty, who was played by actress Ingrid Thulin, was not happy about this decision, but, basically had no other choice. Even though Wallenberg offered her an alternative building outside of Berlin, Kitty was very upset, as for many years she had worked hard to build up the reputation of Salon Kitty. This whole thing, of course, was just a lie by Wallenberg, as he specifically wanted Kitty, this very experienced madam, to run his intelligence operation. Kitty ended up saying goodbye and eventually moved her and her team to this new alternative building that Wallenberg had set up. Not only was Kitty given this new building and business to run, but she was also given a new selection of sex workers, something that she was not happy about. The women were, of course, from the selected group that we'd seen earlier. They were, of course, undercover. Kitty had no idea she was basically being used. So, the new Salon Kitty opened for business, and so began the intelligence gathering by the undercover sex workers. And this was actually where we were introduced to one of the new prostitutes called Margarita, who was played by Teresa and Savoy. We saw Margarita's journey as she created this false sense of security for her clients in an effort to obtain sensitive information. She had no qualms about what she was doing, no hesitation. In her eyes, it was all, for a good cause. One soldier in particular, called Hans, grew an infatuation with Margarita very quickly and, basically became head over heels. He fell into her trap and very quickly started opening up about himself and his feelings. Hans hated Hitler. He'd seen the brutality on the warfield and had planned to basically defect to the other side. Of course, all this information was gathered up by Margarita and then passed on to the commandant. She later found out that Hans had actually been killed thanks to her and the information that she gathered. But instead of feeling triumphant, she suddenly felt guilty for what she had done. It finally dawned on her that what she was doing was wrong and, she was being used as bait. I must say, when I saw this play out and Margarita had this sudden change of heart, it just wasn't developed enough, so it kind of felt very rushed. I didn't mind that the story went down this route, but it just was very underdeveloped. Anyways, Margarita would end up confiding in Kitty and incidentally revealed to her that this brothel, this whole thing was just a setup, an intelligence operation by Wallenberg. Kitty obviously had no idea, and that was it. She absolutely went berserk and wanted revenge. She was lied to, every step of the way. And so, I can understand her anger for Wallenberg. Ultimately, she had a thriving business in the heart of Berlin, and suddenly, thanks to him, it was all over. Now, one of Salon Kitty's most impressive qualities was the amazing visuals that we saw throughout the film. The brilliance of these visuals came from three key areas. Number one being the production design, the second being the costume design, and thirdly, the cinematography. All three key aspects unified together and, just really brought the whole story to life. In particular, I want to give credit to Ken Adam, the film's production designer, who did an outstanding job with his work on the film, creating these luscious interiors for the brothel. It was very colourful, very extravagant, with the posh furnishings and theatrical lighting. A very visually striking location. Adam also produced a very cold and atmospheric look for the SS Nazi headquarters, with the shiny marble floors and the draping swastikas. It's also fair to say that Salon Kitty didn't shy away from its use of Nazi iconography, which definitely caused some controversy once the film was released. I think because everything looked so decadent and to a high quality, Tinto Brass, the director, was accused of somewhat glamorizing the whole Nazi ideology. While I can totally see that point of view, I did get the impression that the director was trying to criticize the Nazi ideology with the use of exaggerated decadence. When it comes to the performances, I thought actress Ingrid Thulin, who played Kitty, she stole the show and was perhaps the most entertaining part of the film. Madame Kitty was this loud, over-the-top character that loved champagne and, occasionally broke out into song. I kind of think that someone like Kitty in real life, they would be really annoying, to hang out with. Just be too over the top. I'm kind of more reserved, so I'm like, just kind of dial it down a little bit, please. But the character, she was perfect for Brass's skewed wartime vision of excess and debauchery. I also appreciated that the director gave the character some layers and didn't just, make them one-dimensional. Kitty was like the mother hen, looking out for her girls when they were in trouble. And with that said, she also was, happy to stand up for herself. She wasn't shy. She was a confident woman. So, overall, just a great performance. Teresa and Savoy, I thought, did a pretty good job playing Margarita, and did the best with the material she had been given. The actress certainly looked the part, as she brought this kind of innocence to the character, and so when you saw her character, in peril, you definitely felt, empathy for her. But due to the undeveloped script, I did think that the character was not fully fleshed out. There was a lot of potential there, but it was kind of a missed opportunity. The biggest letdown, I think, for the character was that sudden change of heart that I mentioned earlier. One minute she was with the Nazis, the next, she was against them. So, that's okay. But like I said, it wasn't fleshed out. So, overall, it was a very kind of decent but somewhat uneven performance. So, dislikes for Salon Kitty from 1976. My biggest dislike for the film would have to be the various musical performances that we saw from inside the brothel. Now, while I can appreciate the effort and hard work that went into creating these scenes, overall, I felt that they just dragged on for way too long and, really slowed down the pace. Initially, it started with the opening titles where we saw Kitty performing inside the salon. That was fine. It went on for maybe 3 or 4 minutes, but it was really just establishing the location. But later on in the film, there were some other musical performances from Kitty doing this cabaret act. And those sequences just went on for far too long. Just to clarify, I'm not criticizing the efforts of the actress Ingrid Thulin. I thought she did a pretty good job, with all the dancing and the choreography, the singing. She embodied this woman, this provocative character. She did a great job. It was a poor decision to linger on those scenes and have them, go on for 3 or 4 minutes at a time. But I did get the impression that maybe the director was trying to linger on these, extravagant, showbiz type sequences to act as a stark contrast to the brutal nature of the narrative. Maybe that was his intention, and if so, it certainly worked, but still, it didn't need to go on for that long. And so, ratings for Salon Kitty from 1976. I'm going to be rating this movie a solid 4.9 out of 10. No doubt, Salon Kitty was a very ambitious piece of filmmaking from director Tintin Brass that focused more on the spectacle rather than the substance. Of course, this movie was based on the real-life events that took place during World War II in 1939, but it's safe to say that the director definitely exaggerated these events by inserting eroticism and satire. While I found the movie quite entertaining at times, you have to take everything with a pinch of salt because this director didn't really bother with the historical accuracy. With that said, I can't say that Salon Kitty was this outright brutal Nazi exploitation movie. Yes, of course, there were many moments of shock value inserted in, but overall, it was a very story-driven movie. Compared to some of the other Nazi exploitation films like SS Experiment Camp, Salon Kitty, in comparison, is pretty tame. Ultimately, this is a very slow-paced drama that didn't need to be. It went on for over 2 hours, but when I think about it, a solid 90 minutes and this story could have easily have been wrapped up. If you've seen Salon Kitty, then please let me know your thoughts and memories in the comment section below. For those who haven't, it's a recommendation from me, but as I said, be prepared for a very slow, plodding, erotic drama. If you're into controversial European cinema, then I think you'll definitely get a kick out of it. But for those who don't really like these slow-paced dramas, maybe give something else a go. And well, that's all from me today, guys. I do hope you've enjoyed this review of Salon Kitty from 1976. I'll be back next week with another cult movie review. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, guys, take care.